Okay, now our next step is to use watercolor. And what I'm going to use is a field palette like this. It's a very small mixing area and a large amount of paint. This is tube paint that was actually squirted out, and that's gum arabic, which is a chemical that actually dries very hard, and when you add water to it, it loosens up. So it's powder and gum arabic, and so water is what's going to loosen this up and what we're going to paint with. So it's the cleanest and safest, being as safe as we want to be during this time. This is the safest art supply on the market today. And I'm just going to put this down here and tilt the camera so you could probably see a little more of the palette. I also have water here, and I have a brush that's a number 6 brush. Actually, it's a number 8. And I'm going to show you that this palette of mine looks an awful lot like this palette. Now, this palette is a card that I got from a good friend of mine. It was a happy birthday card to Mr. Vermette. It says cheers from a good friend of mine. And she knew I liked Winslow Homer, one of the greatest painters that ever lived. And that was his palette right there. Look how messy that palette is. Whew. So even with a messy palette, you could come up with some great things. So this palette is pretty messy too, isn't it? And it's got a thumb hole, so I can put my thumb in there. And it washes off, so it's really, even though you get a little messy with it, it's not bad. And we're going to do the same thing we did with the lines, but we're going to start painting yellow or whatever color you want. And then bring it down. I'm going to change it like that. Add a little red to it. Maybe a little more red to it. No, the more I stay in that well, the brighter it gets. And then I'm going to add some more yellow out here. So I'm going to do the whole thing over again. So I want to keep it about the same colors. Wow, look at that. Depending on your paper, everything's going to act a little different. And look what's happening with the crayons. It's actually acting as what we call a resist. It's resisting and it's holding the watercolor in very nicely. So let's do some more of this. If it gets too thick and you can't see the paper through it, it means you need to add a little more water. And you should have a paper towel so you can, dab your brush now and then like this. And you can take off too much water if you get too much on there. But with a small brush, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint these really quickly. Remember, there are no mistakes with art. Bob Ross said that there are no mistakes, only happy accidents, and I like that. There are other artists too, like Robert Henry, great art teachers, and what my business is actually named after, the Art Spirit Studio. He wrote a wonderful book called The Art Spirit. Now what I did really quickly is I went to the water, dried my brush, using the brush as a sponge to kind of lift off, just like that. And our flowers are beginning to take shape. They're starting to glow. That's what we love about it. That's what we love about spring. It has so much color. You do not have to go from one end to the other. You can go from both ends at the same time. Use your yellow ochre in between. I love yellow ochre. Yellow ochre is actually a grade yellow. Then in the middle, I'm going to do something really different. So I want to do the opposite. So the opposite of this yellow and orange would be a kind of a violet. So I'm going to mix myself a little bit of blue and red, and I'm going to try to create a primrose violet in the center. And that violet with a little bit of red too. Yeah, it's going to look beautiful. And then the same with my green. If you don't have a green, just add yellow and blue and make your stems and make your leaves. Wow, look at these come to life. Yeah, that's nice. And then let's go to another flower. This time, let's use the blues. Let's use blue and white, different colors. Let's see about that color. That looks pretty cool. Let's add some more blue to it. Hop it up. And blue and yellow. Boy, that's going to make that yellow pop. And that's what you want to do. You want to experiment with your colors using opposites on the color wheel. We'll talk more about that with other projects as well. Remember, opposites make each other seem like they're brighter than they really are. I had a little bit of green moment there, didn't I? Adding the blue and the white and the white and the yellow together. And you can mix it up a little. Add a little more red and a little less red. And this is kind of a cold red. This is like a maroon red, kind of a cranberry color. And I kind of like that. So maybe I'll go back in while this is still wet. See if I can't bleed that out. Well, the opposite of all of that, that kind of red, would be like a turquoise. Let me see if I want to do a turquoise. Turquoise, what would that look like? Maybe I can't do it. Oh yes, I can do all things, but it doesn't look like I can make a bright one. So I'm going to change my mind. We can do that. Yeah, that's way too dull. I might as well make it just as bright as I can. Always good to add more than one color at a time. So you're dealing with 2 or 3 colors. Yes, like that. Oh, how fun is this? And this color that I had that I thought was no good is actually perfect for the stem. So we'll do that right there. It's kind of a color that I do see a lot of in the spring. A lot of green in the spring. I'm going to do this one as well, but this one will have more yellow to it. All right, let's do a color that we haven't done. I don't know what this color is, so I'm going to explore a little bit. Oh wow, that is pretty. Look at that. See, that's the thing. You can paint, and it can be a timeless thing for you, where you just lose yourself in your color exploration. I love that. And you're being a little bit like a scientist. You're exploring and inventing new color combinations. And maybe this one changes a little bit. Maybe this one changes. And doing some drastic color of yellow, and then going back to this color here, which is a bright, bright blue. And then maybe I'll add some red. Notice how quickly I'm going. I'm changing my colors really quickly, and I'm always in between washing my brush. Keep them nice and clean. Whoa, look at that. And then I'm going to try for a very light color. Couple of very light colors, like that. Just like that. Making it a little brighter in the middle, like that. And then use that green I was using before for this stem, which is the same green as down here. And now we have a wonderful watercolor painting to start. The next thing we're going to do is consider what we can do with the shape, all the white around the flower. That's called the negative space, and it creates some beautiful, these flowers have created some beautiful shapes that we don't generally look at. And so we want to make them a little more important. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to paint all of that. And I'm going to show you how I'll do that. You can do this with just a regular, your regular watercolor paint, or you can do it with ink. Just so that you can see what can happen, I'm going to do it with ink. So I'm going to go get my ink and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back with my ink, and it's a Japanese sumi brush ink. It's usually very, very permanent, so you want to be very careful just taking a little and pouring it out onto the palette like that. Do not get this on your clothes. Do not get this on your hands. I'm going to move my palette so you can see it. And it's very, very black. And you'll see as I start to paint how black it is. It gets very, very dark. You can add water to it, but that'll thin it out. And it's really, I'm going to paint the whole background. Now when you paint the background, you want to be really careful that you're painting in between. And what the black is going to do is it's going to make everything glow. You have to watch out if you're painting like I am, vertically. You know, this whole painting is standing up, and if I get too much paint on my brush and too much of a bead of paint, it could actually drip down right into my flowers. That's what this is doing right now. You look at that bead right there. So what Mr. Vermette did is he actually dried the brush and then used the brush as a sponge to lift off these things that want to be accidents waiting to happen. Okay, then I'm going to keep going back into the black. And I wouldn't get a bigger brush for this because although it would be easier to get these big areas, a bigger brush can sometimes be harder to get into these hard to get to areas. And one of the things you want to do in order to be able to get into these hard to paint areas is let your brush be straight up in the air. This brush handle should be coming straight forward toward the camera. So if you're painting downward onto a table, make sure your brush is straight up in the air and then take advantage of that very beautiful point that you have, and you can get into a lot narrower areas. Very narrow areas. Okay, I'm going to need a little more black here. So I'm going to keep pouring it out. What a cheery painting for today. I hope you're getting just as lost as I am in my art. Instead of going out, I'm actually bringing spring in. You can actually leave little white specks too, like that. It doesn't have to be all colored in. Then we can stop there. Going in between. This is called cutting. Your cutting skills. You're literally cutting around shapes. Trying not to go over the flowers at all. And that's great practice. Anything you do go over is going to be covered forever. It's never going to get clean again and never going to come off. So you have to be really careful what it is that you are painting. And it's interesting because what you are painting is bringing out the shapes that you're not painting right now. I'm going to leave some of those white specks, kind of like that. I could get them all and be incredibly perfect with everything, but sometimes it's good to leave some of that. And later on I'll show you why. In fact, I'm going to leave a little bit of white on the edge there. Sometimes it's good to leave a little white on the edge of your flower petals. Now we have a big decision to make. Should we go over your name? And I would say yes, go right over your name. But remember, always, always put your name on your work when you're done. So this painting's not done, so it's okay to go over your name. And you will never see it again because this ink, if you use the ink that I'm using, is very permanent. And I'm going to leave some of those white specks. Come right around here and right into that hard to get to area right in here. And I don't want all of them. Some of them I'm going to take out. And already you're seeing on the top that it's actually drying a little lighter, like a light gray. And that's what happens. The paper that I'm using is actually made of cotton. And cotton soaks up everything. But even the regular paper that you've been using in art class will work just like this. In fact, some of this ink that I'm using would actually go through that paper that you're using. Right clean through to the other side. So you have to be careful of your surface. The board that I'm using is a Formica board. You can get it at any hardware store, or sometimes we even use plexiglass, just a regular plastic clear glazed glass. And sometimes that's hanging around the house, and you can use it as a board because it's waterproof. And it makes an excellent lightweight board. I've always made mine. I never have bought them. Because you can get these boards very, very large, and I can paint any size. I'm almost there, aren't I? Wow, look what that did to the painting. So adding black actually made these flowers glow. So that's called contrast. You're adding contrast. You're adding a very dark color to bring out the lightness of the painting. So that is very dramatic now. I'm going to stop right here and have you have a closer look at this. Well, it was so much fun working with you today, and I will continue to make videos like this for you, early childhood, pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade, and hopefully you'll have an opportunity to do this at home. We had watercolor, we had Crayon crayons, or just regular crayons, we had pencils that we used today, a number 6 brush, and water and paper. Now remember, parents, if you need paper, get a hold of me. My email is michael.vermette@iis.bie.edu, and you can contact me through the school as well, and if you need any supplies like that. In terms of these supplies, we don't have a whole lot left, but I'm working on that too. So make sure you friend me, or whatever you do to actually sign up for these. And you can tell I haven't done many of these, but I'm going to do more and get better at it. And what a wonderful spring day we have in the main Art Spirit studio. See you next time.